And A, I hope you can understand it. And B, I hope you keep it between this room.
Bobby didn't just make a bad decision. He completely destroyed any chance at a normal life. Here's why. Welcome to Sopranos Breakdown. I'm Matthew. Together, we'll dive deep into the world of Tony, Carmela, and the rest of the crew, uncovering hidden details and exploring the deeper meanings behind every episode. If you love The Sopranos, do me a favor, smash that like button so more fans can find this content. All right, let's get started. A complete disaster. Like watching a man walk straight into quicksand while holding a perfectly good ladder.
And A, I hope you can understand it. And B, I hope you keep it between this room and Junior. Because if you don't, I promise you, they're gonna find pieces of you in 8 different dumpsters.
Junior warned him, plainly, but the same Bobby who once looked up to Junior like he was some kind of mob sage suddenly couldn't follow the simplest piece of advice. And just like that, the guy torched his family's future, all while convincing himself he was doing the right thing. Jojo? Gorgeous, self-possessed. Janice? She looked like something out of a medieval folk tale, the kind of troll that lures travelers under a bridge and robs them blind. And Bobby went for that. It wasn't about moving up in the ranks either. Bobby never seemed like the kind of guy who cared about power plays. Dating Janice didn't earn him any favor. It just tangled him deeper in Tony's family drama. Richie and Ralphie still would have been capos regardless. Bobby's promotion was more about attrition and timing than strategy. And let's be honest, being with Janice only created more problems with Tony. Sure, Bobby eventually got bumped up, but was that because he married Janice? Unclear.
I don't think you got reason to talk to me this way. I always liked you.
Bullshit. But we'll assume you do now. You tell my uncle that he gets to keep 5%. 5% of his shy, his sports betting.
Tony seemed more interested in someone he could control, someone loyal who wouldn't be scheming to take over. Bobby was that guy. Safe, dutiful, simple. Silvio was always the real underboss, the consigliere who advised Tony and kept things steady. Bobby wasn't brought up to make decisions. He was brought in as a buffer, someone who could absorb heat while keeping his mouth shut. After Christopher flamed out, there weren't many options left. Bobby was the least complicated solution.
You want more responsibility? Stop with controlling your wife.
Still, Bobby did ask for more responsibility. He put himself on the radar. And at a certain point, Tony rewarded that. That doesn't make him smart. It makes him convenient. What happened with Jojo? She probably backed off after Janice made things uncomfortable. Bobby never even realized she might have been interested. All he saw was Janice, aggressively inserting herself into his life, manipulating the situation until he had no real choice left.
I'm picking up the kids after school, Bobby. No argument.
Yeah, he's hanging in though.
Aren't you, Bob?
Janice, leave those. The girl's coming today.
Then I better do.
She played his grief, pretended to help with his kids, filled a vacuum he wasn't ready to defend. By the time he realized what was happening, he was already in too deep. And yes, that's exactly how she wanted it.
Bobby's dead.
Ambassador Hotel.
Bobby's reward, Boma, a short-lived promotion, some trains, and then a bullet. The only thing Janice ever delivered efficiently was chaos, and Bobby walked right into it. Here's what The Sopranos won't tell you about Ralph Ciferto, and it's way uglier than you think. Janice pegging Ralphie is somehow more disturbing than Fran Felstein's entire existence and more unbearable than watching Employee of the Month sober.
You got no reason to be calling me.
I have to tell you everything. I mean, I didn't want to tell you before because it's just so embarrassing.
Who are you?
I'm at Rolf's.
Oh, Christ.
No, it's okay.
There he is. Ralphie, face down, dildo in, soul out. It's repulsive. But the real disgust doesn't come from the act itself. It's the context. Ralphie, who mocks and degrades sex workers, who literally beat a pregnant stripper to death, now crawling into the role of one. It's not just hypocrisy, it's poetic filth. No twisted symbolism or self-flagellating stigmata here. Just a man marinating in the same shame he used to weaponize against others.
The roller on the washing machine broke, Carm, sir. Then I could use yours.
Clean out the filter this time. Disgusting.
Janice, meanwhile, floats through it all like she's immune to infection and consequence. Her presence alone is offensive, grimy, oblivious, spiritually septic. Watching her play guitar is its own form of psychological warfare. And yet somehow, this is who Bobby Bacala chooses over Jojo. Because Jojo was too busy keeping the kitchen spotless to indulge a midlife breakdown.
No, I was sorry to hear about your mother.
At least she didn't suffer. She made all of us suffer instead. Oh, it was a joke. She made all of us suffer.
Then there's Fran Felstein, who appears for one episode, but somehow manages to stare through the screen like a cursed doll, straight into the void. One look and you know dark magic is real. The sounds in that pegging scene, auditory terrorism, with headphones on, it's less like watching a prestige TV drama, and more like surviving a ritual. And still, this is the same Ralphie who raked in more money than half the crew combined.
I'm rounding my ass off for you.
It's my decision.
Jesus Christ, Tom. I ate dinner at your house.
This is business.
Tony tolerated all of it because the guy brought in cash, kinks, chaos, corpses. As long as the envelope was fat, the rest was background noise. Yes, Tracy was just a stripper, but everyone knows what happens in the VIP room. Ralphie knew it, exploited it, and destroyed it. Then had the nerve to imitate it. That's not a man in control. It's a man unraveling. By the time it's all rewatched and recontextualized, the scene makes perfect sense. It's disgusting, because Ralph is disgusting. Not just a violent narcissist, but a man with a hollow center where morality should be. The act fits the character. It's not kink-shaming if the kink is a mirror reflecting your own rot. Johnny Sack hated Christopher, not just because he was a screw-up, but because Chrissy crossed a line no junior should ever dare. Here's what that really says about mob hierarchy. Let's break it down.
Maybe you let him keep Lorraine, and you take a bigger piece of his Florida shit, the club.
Christopher, freshly made and feeling a little too confident, decides to open his mouth during a delicate sit-down between heavyweights. Tony had already signaled him, clearly, to keep quiet. But Chris, playing junior diplomat, blurts out a suggestion about how Johnny Sack and Little Carmine might work things out. And that's when Johnny lost it. Now, Johnny Sack is many things. Intense, emotional, loyal, but above all, he's old school. He doesn't want advice from someone who, in his eyes, is still just a kid who used to wait outside while real business was being conducted. Christopher might have been made, but in Johnny's mind, he hadn't earned the right to speak in that room, especially not on that topic. The issue wasn't just what Chris said, it was that he said anything at all. Johnny had been carrying the grudge and navigating a high-stakes internal power struggle. Meanwhile, Chris, clueless about the history, tosses out a half-baked suggestion, like it's a harmless idea. It's the equivalent of telling a surgeon mid-operation, "Hey, maybe try using more tape." Johnny's outburst, "What is this, the UN now?" wasn't just about the content. It was about status, pride, and control. He saw Christopher's comment as presumptuous, disrespectful, and worst of all, undermining. A younger guy stepping into a world he didn't fully understand. Acting like an equal when he was still learning the ropes.
Everybody's got a goddamn opinion?
Add to that Johnny's general frustration with a world where everyone has an opinion now, as if mob life had turned into a democracy, and the explosion starts to make more sense. Also, Johnny still saw Chris as a reckless, unstable junkie. Someone who treated his loyal girlfriend poorly, couldn't stay clean, and only got as far as he did through nepotism. To Johnny, he didn't deserve a seat at the table, let alone a voice. Yes, Johnny Sack could be sensitive. He was certainly prideful, and his temper was legendary. But when you're close to the top of a powerful organization, respect is currency. And from Johnny's point of view, Christopher tried to spend some that he hadn't earned yet. He was supposed to sit there, observe, and stay silent. He should have just waited in the car. Here's what the Sopranos writers completely ignored. Their own characters are tangled in one massive, awkward family scandal nobody ever mentions. Did the writers really forget that Adriana La Cerva is related to Jackie Jr. and Vito Spatafore? Not only that, but Jackie Jr. and Vito are related too. Yet here we have Jackie Jr. having dinner with Ralphie, and both Jackie Jr. and Vito openly checking out Adriana like she's some prize.
Jackie Jr. was shot to death at the Boonton Projects by drug dealers. I'm going over Rosalie's.
Meanwhile, Vito ends up killing Jackie Jr., his own cousin. And what do we get? An entire episode weighing Ralphie's mess against Tony's. But what about Vito? The guy just killed family, and all we get is a silent slump. No dialogue, no remorse, no family drama. Really? Like, how's your sister? Screw your mother. If my cousin looked like Adriana, I'd probably think the same thing. What is this? The cardinal of the incest church. How tangled is this family tree anyway? Do these thoughts about banging your cousins sneak in sometimes? Often. In America, cousin can mean anything from grandparents being siblings to cousins by marriage. And it's realistic in some families for cousins to find each other attractive. Adriana's mom is supposedly Jackie and Richie's sister. But what's that based on? Fan speculation and messy family trees. Meanwhile, Adriana's mom doesn't mention brothers, doesn't appear at Jackie Jr.'s funeral, and has no interaction with Richie. So, who really knows? Looking at the family trees, these characters are closely blood-related. And let's be honest, everyone has that one cousin who's, well, tempting. No? Just me? Adriana and Jackie Jr. being related is clear. But Vito and Adriana? That's less obvious.
So exert a little pressure. Call that nephew of yours, Vito, and the other one. They're in the building trades, aren't they?
Wait, are you fucking serious?
Richie, it's a gesture.
Remember when Sil told Richie to build a ramp and mentioned his nephew Vito and another relative? Vito and Jackie Jr. visited their other cousin in the hospital after Mustang Sally bashed him with a putter. Jackie Jr. says,
What are you doing here?
I can't visit my cousin?
I can't see my cousin, yet that cousin later appears standing, wearing glasses like he's just fine. Classic tangled continuity. By the way, adult cousins having relationships is legal in New Jersey, New York, and many other places worldwide. Little Carmine hooked up with his second cousin, Lorraine Caluso, and no one made a fuss. Incest is cringe, sure, but sometimes you have to put attraction before the awkwardness. The timeline is messed up, and the family trees are a joke. How much more betrayal can Paulie take?
Abel lays his hand on my niece again. I'm gonna tear him apart piece by piece.
Richie calls Adriana his niece. Tony sends Richie to get Vito and his construction company to build a ramp for Beansy. This is Godfather 3-level family confusion. Bottom line, the writers probably didn't keep track. These characters are scumbags anyway. Blood means nothing when Tony's own mom and uncle try to kill him. Maybe they're not blood-related after all. Or maybe uncle and cousin are just terms for family friends in Jersey. Either way, the Sopranos family tree is a mess of tangled bloodlines, questionable hookups, and enough drama to make even a cardinal blush. Everyone says crying is a sign of weakness, except when mob bosses do it. Here's the real story behind Phil Leotardo's tears and why it turns everything upside down. Phil calls John weak for crying like a woman at the Jerry Lewis telethon. Weak. Honestly, my respect for Phil Leotardo as a man just plummeted.
My estimation of John Sacramone as a man just fucking plummeted. Give him a break, will you? Some more
Remember when Johnny Sack cried at his daughter's wedding? Phil snarled, "To cry like a woman? That's a fucking disgrace."
If they can make him cry, and if he's that weak, what the fuck else can they make him do? I gotta agree with Phil, though. Oh, you do you?
He mocked John, saying if the feds could make him cry, what else could they make him do? But then, there's Phil himself.
I saw him bring Dean and Jerry back together. I was there at the telethon. I cried.
All cozy with Nancy Sinatra, reminiscing about Frank Sinatra. I saw him bring Dean and Jerry back together. I was there at the telethon. I cried. Even Cinderella didn't cry. And Phil never said how long he was locked up, but honestly, he should still be there, crying over grilled cheese off the radiator. Yeah, that'll do it, especially if you're dreaming it was manicotti. To play devil's advocate, Johnny Sack was the boss. Okay, Johnny. Showing any weakness in front of the feds? Different rules. Especially if Phil had a glass of wine during the telethon. That stuff makes the Shah emotional. The Shah is advised to have a breadstick handy in those situations. Breadsticks, though, they make him uncomfortable. Allegra, Johnny's daughter, was a 50-pound bundle of joy. When it comes to daughters, all bets are off, unless we're talking about Christoph's daughter. I never had a problem with Phil's tears. To me, they're beautiful. But let's not forget the guy was a massive coward.
Tell Phil.
Avoiding Tony to pay his dues, hiding in the house, making Butchie do the talking, then running like hell during the DeMeo Lupertazzi War. That's mob boss behavior, right? Tony was a shit stain, sure, but even he didn't run into a house yelling at a fellow mobster. Phil did. When Bobby and Sil got hit, Phil packed his family off to a motel. Cowardice all the way. And yelling at Tony from his window? Stupid. Pure cowardice. Not to mention dodging Tony when he owed him money and trying to weasel out of car repairs. Always with the excuses. Meanwhile, Phil's got to watch the sugar in his coffee. He's already sweet enough. But all bets are off when the Rat Pack's involved. There's a lot of displacement going on with all this crying talk. The Johnny Sack thing left a lot unsaid. Phil's cry like a woman. In handcuffs, perp walked by the FBI. Line got a pass. It's a sign of weakness, sure, maybe even being a Finnock. But those are the rules. And yeah, that was muscular dystrophy. But honestly, Phil's whole character seems to be about presenting the opposite of who he really is. Phil invented the cry wank in prison, jacking off into tissues. Sure, it's not macho to cry like John did.
Let's go, John.
What? Wait a second.
Let's go.
Stand back, please.
Did you let my daughter leave?
But damn, the feds made the wedding as obnoxious as possible, bringing him back to jail at the worst moment, even cuffing the bride and groom's getaway. Like cruel kids poking at animals through a cage for their own sick amusement. Mean to a murderer. Saying 6 hours is 6 hours. Those agents had to listen to that band too. And John, folding laundry in Danbury. Meanwhile, it's on me to take care of the family. Everyone loves Tony Soprano until he crosses this line. Here's the brutal truth about the moment that makes him irredeemable. Here's the exact moment my respect for Tony Soprano takes a nosedive. On a rewatch of The Sopranos, I started off relating to Tony, his inner demons, compulsions, and all that. But then Season 5, Episode 5 hits, the one where he almost sleeps with Adriana. The hypocrisy and behavior are just insane.
Shut the fuck up and listen to me. You're my nephew, Christopher. And I love you. And that's the only reason you're alive right now. Or anybody else. Anybody. They would have their fucking intervention right to the back of their head.
Tony can't control himself around Adriana, yet he loses it on Christopher for having a meltdown. And he even criticizes Chris for not controlling himself after rehab. To top it off, Tony calls Chris mid. Seriously, Tony? Maybe look in the mirror before you throw shade, you insensitive jerk. That episode marks the point where Tony becomes irredeemable. His behavior with Adriana wasn't an isolated incident. It's part of a pattern going back years. Sure, he's relatable in some ways, but he's also a completely selfish, morally bankrupt man who does whatever benefits him at the moment. He never went after any other associate's official wife or partner. That was the unspoken rule. Yes, he chased Ralph's Guma, but Gumas apparently don't count.
What the fuck is wrong with you? She's his fucking fiancée.
With Adriana, there was no consistency, just unchecked lust, even though she was practically like a daughter to him. Tony has always disregarded his mafia obligations to his men, while never forgetting what they owe him. He respects Christopher less than the others, but Chris is ruled by his impulses like an animal with no limits. Leadership material? Not quite. Then there's the shady moment when Tony calls Artie's wife and hangs up like a teenager. Classic Tony. Meanwhile, mob rules say wives and kids are off limits, but that rule clearly didn't apply here. All the murders before were considered part of the war, business as usual, but cheating on Adriana? That's crossing a line. Phil was supposedly at war for 20 years, too. And honestly, the guy had some weird habits, but that's another story. 5 seasons in and Tony's hypocrisy hits the spotlight. As his psychiatrist said, when Tony acted on his impulses with Adriana, he crossed a moral crossroads. Nothing's off limits anymore, except what's bad for business or himself. No moral doubts, just cold calculation. The guy's a straight-up sociopath. Adriana was bad for business and his personal life, but he still let his lust win. That's depravity. Few redeeming qualities. The kind of woman he might settle down with, maybe for a day or two before the next distraction shows up, like a mob version of Don Draper. In Season 1, Tony seemed to genuinely love Carmela, but from Season 2 onward, she's more of a nuisance or a mother figure. They even sent Livy to a retirement community because someone had to fill the mother role. Mafia life ruins people over time, and the hypocrisy extends to how Tony deals with others. He tells people to mind their own business while acting however he wants, cheating and manipulating as he pleases. Tony's cheating on Carmela from the start was no surprise. The show made it clear early on he wasn't a good guy. Sympathy? Nope.
And you're living all alone here, Tony, without your family?
Wait a minute.
One of his cruelest moves, short of murder, was bringing up painful family memories during dinner just to watch others suffer. Bitter, controlling, and toxic. The racism among many characters is hard to ignore and adds to their flaws. Aside from a few exceptions, most characters are racist, cheating. Abusive messes who get what's coming to them. Back to Tony's moral decay. His worst traits show with his family. He grooms Christopher into a life Chris despises, then blames everyone but himself. He resents AJ for not growing up abused like he did and treats Meadow poorly when she challenges his lifestyle. Tony actively chooses to be a terrible father and person. One particularly disturbing scene is when Tony mocks Janice's son, baiting her into a meltdown. It's pure misery on display.
Wonder where Hoppo's eating his Sunday dinner.
What?
Regarding self-control, Tony's old psychiatrist acknowledged he made real progress by not sleeping with Adriana, but the reality is he invited her on a ride that was clearly a setup to hook up. If he really didn't care about Chris, why didn't he kill him after Chris tried to shoot him? Because Tony Egg stepped in. The boss had the power to do it, but chose not to. The fact Tony spared Chris says a lot. Killing your own cousin/nephew after an attempted hit would send a message, but it might also destabilize the crew. Some capos weren't happy Tony let Chris live. Tony Egg's voice of reason kept Tony from going off the deep end. Tony's anger at Chris was more about embarrassment than genuine concern. He never owned his mistakes. Instead, he wanted Chris dead and relished having an excuse until Tony Egg stopped him. Tony's idea of making peace with Chris? Having him throw away a stick covered in dog poop. Charming. His reaction to Jackie Jr. cheating on Meadow was classic hypocrisy. He wants the best for his daughter, but cheats on Carmela. When it comes to daughters, all bets are off. He doesn't share DNA with Carmela, so, well, the hypocrisy runs deep. Murdering a guy in the woods on a college trip with his daughter? Just another day for Tony. In the end, Tony was a born leader, sure, but more importantly, he was a selfish, broken man who wielded power without any real decency. That's the uncomfortable truth. Oh, you'll binge the show and the breakdowns, but won't subscribe? What are you, some kind of freeloader? Don't insult me.